Thanks, everybody. What I would like to do is go into some detail about collecting rainwater off of rooftops and hard surfaces and using it actively for a number of uses. And the trade-off of that versus stormwater runoff. There's some kind of things to think about as you're designing a system. You're going to get some numbers. Glad to see a few civil engineers in the room to maybe ask some questions about that. Going to go over supply potential, the mitigation of stormwater. It kind of goes hand in hand. You fill in your tank, and if you want to supply water, you tend to want to hoard it, keep it, and have it. On the other hand, if you have stormwater, you want to make sure that that tank is empty for the next time it rains. So I'm going to go through some of the things to think about as you design a system to accomplish both of those things. Jim talked about collecting water and then having the overflow go to bioswales and some of the other EMPs that are in the ordinance, which are fantastic. That's something as rainwater professionals we really advocate. It's collecting the water you need to use, and then when the tank is full, have to go someplace else so it infiltrates. And then I'll get a little bit into ROIs and paybacks, because all the calculations we do for how much water you can supply feeds right into how much money you can save. Here in the city of Atlanta, with our water rates plus sewer rates pushing 3 cents a gallon, we can see, especially for commercial systems, pretty decent ROIs. So this is basic mass balance of your system, your property, whatever it is. Rain comes in, tends to run off as stormwater. We have evaporation, water going up into the sky, making clouds. We have our municipal water coming in, black water going out, gray water going out, some water infiltrating into the ground, some of that in some cases being brought back out in wells, and in some cases we may have gray water being recycled. What we're trying to do here, and it's very relevant to this conversation with stormwater, is to minimize stormwater. So as you're collecting rainwater, it goes into your system, you collect it, and then use it for a variety of purposes, whatever the case may be. A lot of irrigation, indoor uses, toilet flushing, cooling tower makeup, laundry, processed water for industrial processes, and even potable uses. Surprisingly, it's April. April showers, last 30 years, non-existent. The lowest month of the year for rainfall in Atlanta, this is from Hartsfield-Jackson, is actually just a little bit below October. So that's kind of interesting to me for rainwater geeks, people that like looking at this stuff. But the interesting thing I think for this conversation is that we really don't have a dry season here in Atlanta. You may think, July, August, yes, there's a lot of evaporation going on, but we get close to average, or in some cases well above average during the months of June, July, August, and then dropping off in September. So we need to deal with stormwater runoff year-round. So that's one point. So our rainwater collection system needs to use that water year-round. So we design the system that way. So how much water can you collect? It's basically, you take a 1-inch, 1 foot square. How much water is that? It's 0.623 gallons. How big is your rooftop? This just shows you how much water falls on your roof. It's not how much water you're supplying. I'll get into that. But it's how much water falls on your rooftop roof. I put from 5,000 square feet up to 60,000 square feet. Simple calculation. Over the course of the year, and the average, 30-year average, you get up to 1.8 million gallons of the 60,000 square foot roof, and so on. If our stormwater ordinance says that we want to collect that first inch of rain of any rain event, your tank would need to be somewhere around that size. So 5,000 square foot roof, 3,000 gallon tank-ish, 60,000, around a 40,000 gallon tank. So it's simple calculation. So that doesn't really tell you how much stormwater you're mitigating. It doesn't really tell you how much water you're supplying. But what you do need to know is how much your tank is overflowing and how much you're using. So say, take any rooftop, let's say it's 2,000 square feet, an inch of rain falls, about 1,060 gallons that makes its way into the tank. Your tank is already half full. That means 660 gallons is going to overflow. So you need to deal with that with your bioswale or whatever. So the idea here is you want to have that tank empty and ready. So great, collect it, but use it. It's kind of the message there. So that's your basic daily mass balance you can use to generate your water supply and your stormwater runoff calculations. Okay, so building a model for how much water you can supply. What I do, you can go down to a minute. Using monthly averages just doesn't work. You need to look at actual historical patterns of rainfall over time. And so what I actually do and build a model for is looking at different years. We can look at 2007 during the drought. We can look at 2009, the heavy rainfall year that we had. This year will be an interesting one. An average rainfall year is 2010. It's good. It's a good year for calculating ROIs because it's close to the 3-year average. 2005 works pretty well as well. And then looking at how are you going to use the water? Is it outdoors? Is it indoors? Getting into some nitty-gritty of what your daily usage is going to be. And then we throw in a capture efficiency because of leakage, evaporation, etc. For hard surfaces like rooftops, 90 is a pretty good number. It's basically what I use. In some circumstances, you can use a lot less. Some cases, maybe more. So it's real simple. Rainfall comes in, you use it, or you have overflow. Simple as that. Calculating day by day through the year, and then you can generate what your supply is, what your overflow is, what the stormwater impact is. So you have, here's a year with a tank. You can see where it's overflowing up here, you see where it's empty later part of the year, and so on. Pretty simple. So what I'm going to do here is give you this is based on real life examples, but it's a hypothetical situation where I've selected a 50,000 square foot commercial building, and then we're going to apply that to a range of different types of water usage, and then we're going to see how big should the tank be to collect an inch of rain. That's real simple. We already saw that. How much water can we supply? That's a little more interesting. How much overflow or stormwater are we mitigating? Talk a little bit about treatment, and then ROIs and payback. So the different uses of water. This is based on actual projects that are either have been done or in the process of being done. Processed water example, using 18,000 gallons per day. They're using water pretty fast, which is great from a stormwater mitigation point of view. And as you'll see, the ROIs look pretty good as well. Cooling tower makeup. You look at month to month, the different usages are different, but on average it's about 11,000 gallons per day over the course of the year. Irrigation of a facility, we'll just call it 2 acres. We're going to just irrigate from March to October, or when we actually need the water for irrigation. And then finally, an apartment building of that size with 350 apartments where you'd be toilet flushing about 4,000 gallons a day. Okay, so tank sizing simply 50,000 square feet times 0.623 is 31,000 gallons. Now, is that what we'd be required to have? Because as I said, your tank isn't always going to be full, but as we go through the calculations, we'll see how much stormwater we're actually mitigating. Okay? One design method that we've used is to make sure, especially in an irrigation example, that you irrigate year-round and make sure the water's gone in about 7 days, because looking at the patterns of rainfall here, on average, it rains about every 10 days. We look at half an inch or more. It's about every 10 or 11 days. So in about a week, if you can use the water, you're free, you're good for having that tank available for stormwater catchment. Okay, let's look at the processed water example, that 18,000 gallons per day example. There's the process flow. Basically, we look at different tank sizes, how many days before it would be empty. We went from 30,000 to 1 inch level of 80,000. How much water we're going to supply, day by day, again calculating. It won't meet a lot of your actual needs, but it's emptied out fast. And the amount of overflow, we're doing a really good job of stormwater reduction on that 50,000 square foot rooftop. So if we assume, and this is a pretty good guess in terms of capital cost, about $2 per gallon, could be less, could be more, it depends on a lot of things. But I've used that to do the calculations. Our water and sewer rate in this case, we have a sewer rate here in the city of Atlanta, comes up just under 3 cents a gallon. The ROI is pretty impressive, at least to me. At least 35%. In some examples here, it's higher, and payback less than 4 years. This is based only on the water savings. There are other possible savings that you can have. The big one is being able to undersize or design a smaller stormwater system. So you can apply that as an offset, so your net capital cost could be less than this. I'm just taking simple water rates, but there are other benefits. Not killing your plant, not having a watering ban, having your plants die, other things that hard to put a number on. So I just did that. Next example, we'll go to the toilet flushing example in year-round use. This one I just happened to run only two different tank sizes. Interesting is the increased tank size, the rainwater supply doesn't go up that much, but the stormwater number goes up quite a bit more. So if you're more interested in stormwater, the adding of the tank size has, in my opinion, more of an impact. In this case, again, excellent ROIs, excellent payback, and everything else applies. So what you'd be doing is collecting water. This particular case, this is a real project, underground tank treatment for toilet flushing. Irrigation, a little bit trickier. In this case, what you would do, you only really need water during the watering season. But what you're going to do is set up the system to run year-round, so you're emptying the tank. As we know, it rains all year round here. So the impact here is you're getting the tank empty in time in about 10 days with the larger system, larger tank, and pretty good stormwater reduction. In terms of ROIs, here we're making an assumption, it may or may not be true, that you have an irrigation meter. You don't have a sewer charge. So your net cost per gallon is about a penny a gallon. So that brings your ROI down to about less than 10%. If you combine this with other types of water use, it might come out okay. There might be other reasons for doing rainwater collection, but the paybacks, you still have your ROI, but it's longer. Cooling tower makeup, similar situation in this particular case. I have to look at every case is a little bit different. In 30 to 80,000 gallons, up to over 1 million gallons of water supplied per year. Good chunk of your water needs being met, and a very good stormwater reduction. ROIs, not too bad, over 10%, about a 6-year payback. Okay, so hopefully got something out of that that you maybe didn't know before. Found it interesting. I'm going to hand it off to